Hi there. So if you're watching this video, we've probably just had a meeting about the purchase of a new home. You are getting ready to go out, and maybe it's not a new home, maybe it's an existing home, but new to you. And if I know myself, because this video is very broad, but if I know myself, I probably talk too much during that consultation. And this is a little bit of a refresher course that you can look back at and get some of the tips and tricks that I mentioned in the purchase of your new home. So as we talked about, one of the things that's going to be key is having clarity on financing. And if you are getting a mortgage, if you're getting a home loan, and you've already talked to your loan officer, make sure that you have a reconnect with them. Let them know that you're now working with me. Maybe connect us through an email so that if we're writing an offer on a Saturday, I can send them a direct message if you're approved up to, a certain amount, and we're not writing the offer quite for that amount. We don't want to send over the full pre-approval that you're approved up to. So make sure that you connect us. But also, I want you to remember to check with them what your monthly payment is going to be based on that amount. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, while I would love to do such great business for you that you want me to help sell your house when the time comes, I don't want it to be next year because you can't afford the home. So make sure that you know exactly how much you're going to be paying per month. If you're a cash buyer, please, let's start thinking about a proof of funds sooner than later. Sometimes that means just calling your bank and saying, hey, we're going to write an offer for X. I need a letter that says that I have that much in my account. If you've got way more than that in your account, we don't necessarily need to show the sellers all of our hand and how much you have in that account. Okay, so financing set aside, let's talk about the fun stuff. I've got to know a little bit more of what you're looking for. I'm going to set you up on a search. It's a very generic search. I like to leave the net a little bit wide, just so we can catch as much as possible. And here's what I know about buyers that I've experienced in the past. We're going to have a checkbox. There's going to be 10 things that are extremely important to us. As we move through this process, there's a possibility that some of those items may get shifted around, removed, or completely replaced. Maybe we thought that a specific style sink was extremely important, and now it's not, right? Or a fence in the backyard, or whatever it may be. So I like to leave those searches broad. However, I will be looking every day at the hot sheet, and if I see something that's like, oh man, this looks like it marks 10 out of 10, you may get an additional text message from me, email, maybe even a call, depending on what our best methods of communication are that we've discussed. And please remember that if you see something, maybe it's on Facebook Marketplace or somewhere else, an ad somewhere else, for something that looks extremely attractive to you, don't hesitate to reach out. Let me get started getting you more information for that. That way it also helps keep me on track with exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so next we're going to find a house that we want to go see, and I'm going to set up a showing for that. Typically, there's going to be we've got to set a request, and maybe there's a little bit of delay from when you ask to see it to when we get confirmation on showing that. A lot of these houses have someone that's living in it, and they want to get it cleaned up as nice as possible so that it looks as good as possible when you come through. So I will get the request from you. I'll let you know, hey, I'll request a showing, and then I'll send you a confirmation of when we're going to see that house. Now, maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but when we go to see this house, you're an adult, you can say what you like. However, I do strongly suggest that you limit your personal and private information while we're in there, because there's all kinds of security devices or possible audio or video surveillance. We've got Ring doorbell, nanny cam, security cam, Alexa. So just make sure that you're, limiting what you say and cognizant of what you say, we can always hop on a call. We can always talk outside, talk in the car about what we're going to write an offer for, any negotiations or anything else like that. When we're in the house, we do want to be mindful that this is someone else's house. If you've got kids, please keep them under control. Don't let them be picking up other kids' toys or other things like that while we're in the house. Now we've gone through the house. It was a fantastic house, and we want to write an offer. As we talked about during our consultation, there's a lot of things that go into an offer. There's some things that are negotiable but are pretty standard things that we can ask for or not ask for. The key here is I'm going to help you write an offer, okay, based off of what you want to present, and I'm going to send that over to you for review. Make sure that you go through that offer. Ask me if you have questions. When you're looking at the offer on the left-hand side, there's all these tiny little numbers, so you can call me up and say, hey Brian, I've got a question, page 4, line 207, what does this mean? Or I want to make this change, or anything else like this. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if the seller does accept it, we're bound to those terms in the contract. So this is the boring stuff. Some people do get excited about the contracts. Now we submit the offer. The seller has an opportunity to accept the offer as it is, or counteroffer it, or completely reject it. Let's say they counteroffer it. When they send over a counteroffer, the counteroffer is going to suggest some changes in terms. Sometimes it's price, sometimes it's inspection days, whatever the case may be. But anything that's in the counteroffer is a change to the contract. Otherwise, all the terms in the contract stay the same. We go back and forth, we negotiate, and congratulations, you're now under contract. So what does that look like? Well, most of us are going to have some kind of a home inspection. I strongly suggest that you do a home inspection. And typically we're going to have, a little over a week to take a look at that. But what does that mean? We have to have an inspection request back to the sellers by the end of our inspection date. Once we get under contract, you'll get an email from me with all the important dates. Under contract date, earnest money date, inspection date. So during that inspection time frame, we can do the inspections that we want. If there's going to be any, involvement with the property, such as digging a hole to do perk test, or, pulling water from a well for 3 hours or something like that, we'll definitely need to get the seller's permission. I'll be coordinating with the inspector and the seller to get people in there. For a standard home inspection, it's about 3 hours, and you can either show up for the whole thing, or you can show up at the last hour for the Cliff Notes version. Either way, when the inspector reaches out for the money and collect the bills, they're going to ask for permission to share that inspection with me. Just give them the permission to go ahead and share that report with me, because there's stuff that I may need to use in that report when we're asking for negotiations during our inspection request. So we've had the home inspected. Looks like the HVAC system hasn't been serviced in a while, or something. The home inspector is going to find something, I promise you. And when you get these reports back, if you're new to the process, or if you've done this 100 times, sometimes it can look like, oh my gosh, there is a lot to this. Don't worry, because that's just what they do. This is normal, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through that, and we're going to find what's important to you. And we have 3 options. One, we can say, you know what, we'll take the house as is. We knew this was going to be really the ideal house for us, or a lot of work, or whatever it may be. You can take it as it is. Number 2, we can terminate the deal. Nope, way too much stuff in here. Don't want to deal with it. Found nuclear waste in the crawl space. Not the house for us. Or number 3, and this is the most common one, is we're going to have some negotiations. Now, I brought up HVAC need and service. That's a pretty common one that we'll find. Not everybody has their HVAC serviced every year. A lot of inspectors will ask or will suggest that it gets done. And so we'll just use that as an example. Maybe it's a outlet that's in the garage that's not on a GFCI or something like that, but there's some things in the inspection that concerns you. We're going to go back to the seller and we're going to ask for repairs. Now, during this time frame, we've probably deposited some earnest money, and that's why it's so important to make sure that we're on time with our inspection requests, because that earnest money is protected by the inspection contingency. So if we decide to walk away, we get our earnest money back. If we say, hey, we want $1 million off of this house, and the seller says, no way, pound sand, we can terminate the deal, get our money back. That's why it's so important that we stick to these time frames, because we want to make sure that we protect that earnest money. So we're going to have some negotiation period. We're going to say, hey, we want you to service and inspect the HVAC system. I'll walk through you with all of the options that we have. And during that time frame, the seller has a couple of options. They can say, yes, we'll do that, or no, we'll pay for half of the HVAC inspection. You pay for the other half, and then you can decide whether you want to do that or not. Once we're past inspections, now between the inspection time and the closing can kind of feel like this weird void, okay? Because maybe we've been talking every day, every other day about, oh, look at this house. Oh, look at this house. Go show this one. Go show this one. Hey, we're going to write an offer. Got this counter offer. Next day, we're under contract. Okay, go deposit your earnest money, inspection. All of a sudden, boom, boom. And then, especially if you're financing, there's a couple of weeks now where the appraiser is going to go out and make sure that the home is worth what we have it under contract for. The bank wants to make sure that they're not loaning $2 million on a $200,000 house. But there is this lull, and don't ever hesitate to reach out and ask any questions that you have. When the appraiser goes out, they're going to send over an appraisal report to you and let you know where they feel that the value of the house is, assuming that the house appraises for what we have it under contract. We're getting close to close. You're getting excited. You may be even going crazy at your house because you're packing and you're cleaning and you're getting all the things done or whatever. Prior to closing, we're going to do a final walkthrough. Now, typically we like to do this as close to closing as possible. But if we've set a date for closing, just know that the title company will wait until a day, maybe 2 days before that scheduled closing date to set up signing. And we're also going to have some time to go over and walk through the house and make sure that it's still in the same condition that it was when we wrote the offer. So make sure that the sellers didn't take any fixtures that were glued or screwed to the wall. Or, I like to joke that make sure that all the kitchen cabinets are there. If we wrote in that there was going to be a refrigerator, washer, dryer, we want to make sure that there's still a refrigerator, washer, dryer. If there's anything during that walkthrough that appears abnormal, we will be addressing that with the sellers. We can always tell the title company to press pause. But we still want to go in, do the signing, and make sure that we have done everything in our part to follow through with what our contract is. And assuming that the walkthrough looks good, we make it to the closing table, and your arm gets cramped up from signing so many papers. The next big question that I get is, when do I get my key? Well, so the title company now has to receive funds from the lender if you're doing financing, or from a wire transfer if it's a cash deal. The sellers still need to sign, and then the title company records this with the county, and that is the meal ticket. Once we have recorded with the county, now I can hand you the keys. And maybe that means that we've arranged for you to pick the keys up at the office, or I've got a lockbox on the property. But until that records at the county, You cannot take possession. You cannot go onto the property. But once you get the keys, the house is now yours. And here's what to expect in the following days. It'd be a friendly reminder to make sure that you've already arranged to have the utilities hooked up. I will have gotten you the utility companies prior to closing. As a friendly reminder, I'll reach out. Somewhere in this process, I'm going to ask you if you've had a great experience. I would love for you to share it with others. So leave me a Google review or something of that nature. It's phenomenal for my business. But I'm going to follow up with you, make sure that you don't have any questions about the house that I can't get from the seller. If you're buying, a house that is going to be your primary residence, you'll probably get a follow-up text message from me a couple weeks out, reminding you to do the homeowner's exemption with the county. That's super important, saves you some money in taxes. And I'm going to call and say hi every once in a while. When I work with great clients, I love to stay in touch, and I always want to be a resource. Let's say you move in, and turns out you just don't like the kitchen light. It's really bugging you. Kind of reminds you of grandma's kitchen light when you were growing up as a kid. No worries. I have great referral partners with electricians, plumbers, roofers, landscape, whatever you need. So I'd love to be your one-stop shop for real estate. So look at that. I have talked too much again. At least on this one, you can speed me up. You can rewind. You can go back and play it. If you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out, and look forward to being your real estate resource for life.